Hello everyone, this is Arjun Gajja and welcome to our DMCtv panel interview. Our guest today was the Executive Director of Live Like Jake organization, Carrie Morrison. Welcome to our show, Ms. Morrison.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I will start things off, and we always like to learn a little background about guests. So, tell us a little bit about your childhood.
So I grew up in South Florida in a town called Palm Beach Gardens, and actually lived in the same home all the way through my junior year when I moved to Orlando to graduate. And funny enough, my mom still lives in the same home. I won't give you the amount of years because then I'll tell you how old I am. But you know, I'm back in the town that I grew up in, Palm Beach Gardens.
What were your interests in high school?
So when I saw this question, I thought to myself, what really was I interested in? I was not a very athletic person. And I worked at a very young age. I started working at 14 at Publix. And by the time I was 16, I worked at my father's company. So after school, I really didn't have time for a whole lot of activities. I was a little worker bee.
What were some happy memories for you as a child?
Well, you know, as I mentioned, I grew up in South Florida, so we do a lot of things outdoors. So we used to visit the beach a lot and just anything outdoors and, going away with the family. Those, we didn't really fly. We drove a lot of places. And a lot of those little trips stand out and, you know, great memories, but definitely enjoying the outdoors.
What came after high school?
So I actually graduated at a young age. I graduated at 17 and didn't turn 18 until that following November. And I did start college right away. I started at UCF and realized after a semester that it was, you know, too big of a school for me and not what I was looking for. So I moved over to a junior college where I finished out and got my associate's degree. And really then just went straight into working.
So, as you said about your college experience, so what would your advice be for middle school and high school students starting to plan college?
I would say do your research, you know, don't go to a school because somebody else wants you to go to school. I would pick a school that, you know, you're going to excel in. And, you know, if you're looking for something small, look for a smaller college, or even maybe start off at a junior college and work your way up. You know, there's no right or wrong way to do it, but just make sure you just do your homework and, you know, you go to the school that you want to go to and that you feel like you're going to excel in.
What is history and mission for the Live Like Jake organization?
So I created the Live Like Jake Foundation after losing my son Jake to a drowning accident on November 30th, 2013. We were visiting family and friends when he snuck out of an unlocked door and fell into the coastal waterway. You know, you're not supposed to bury a child as a parent. You all are very young and do not know what it's like to have a child. But I could tell you when you do get older and you get to experience it, there is no greater pain than losing a child. And when it was to something like a drowning accident that is completely preventable, it cuts a little deeper. So we created the organization to provide scholarships for families that can't afford swim lessons.
My gosh, that's really bad.
That sounds like a great cause. So what programs do you offer?
So we offer scholarships for ISR self-rescue swim lessons around the nation. To date, we've provided over 3,200 of these in 40 states. We also help families with medical expenses that are where the child survived, but may have been left with some brain damage. So we help pay for therapies that insurance will not cover. We also pay for funeral expenses after a drowning accident. And new this year, we started providing grants for instructor training. So we're trying to put ISR instructors in underserved areas so we can keep more children safe in and around the water.
That sounds like a great cause.
Thank you.
Danya?
So the media has described Live Like Jake as a life-saving organization. Can you talk more about the influence this organization has had?
Yeah, so we've, been around now for almost about 8.5 years. We're coming up on Jake's 9th anniversary. And we do have a big presence on social media. There is a video of my daughter Josie in her ISR lessons at 6 months old that if you Google or on YouTube, Josie Live Like Jake video, you'll see it. But it's been viewed more than about 500 million times on social media between the different platforms. And I really think that video has made a huge impact around the world, actually, for drowning prevention and this style of lesson to show how young your child can learn to save themselves, in the water. And so I think just, what we do saves lives. The scholarships for the swim lessons saves lives, and the education we provide saves lives.
Wow.
Arjun?
So tell us more about your swim scholarships.
So we provide them for a lesson. It's called ISR. It stands for Infant Swimming Resource. And this is not just a regular swim lesson. This is called self-rescue swim. So the child not only learns to swim, but they also learn how to roll back and float and get that air if they need to take a break, or if they're a baby and they really don't even know how to swim yet, they're just going to fall in and they're going to learn just to roll back and float and wait for help. It also, when the child is fully skilled, they put them in summer clothes and then winter clothes, because more than about like 2/3 of children that fall in the water and have a drowning accident, they do so fully clothed. It's an accident. It's not during a normal swim time. They just happen to find the water. And so this type of program sets these children up, what to do if they should be, put in that situation. So those are the types of scholarships we provide lessons for.
What can parents do? What can parents do to keep children safe around water?
There's lots of things you can do, but the number one would be, and you can see it behind me, I've got the layers of protection behind me in my screen, is effective adult supervision. Most drownings, they happen not because of a lack of supervision, they happen because of a lapse in supervision. It takes as little as 22 seconds for a child to drown in inches of water. So, we all are human, and we take phone calls, we use the restroom, we shower. These are all little instances where your child can escape your supervision, which is why the next one is important, which is all your doors and windows should be locked and alarmed at all times. If you have a pool, you've got to put a fence around that pool. They sell, fences that are specific to go around a pool. Super, super important. Another thing people don't think about is doggy doors. Kids are known to go right out those and find the water. So if you do have a doggy door, I would recommend either removing it or making sure it is locked. These self-rescue swim lessons that we discussed, and learning CPR. If you're in the water with your child, always be within arm's reach and do not put your child in a flotation device.
Just because a large crowd is around a body of water, parents still need to be very cautious, correct?
Absolutely. There are so many videos out there of children actually drowning in front of people. You could be in the water and a child could be drowning next to you, and you might not even know they're in distress, because it's not like what you see in the movies. There's no thrashing around. If it's a true drowning, they sink right to the bottom, and it's very quiet. So just because you are, at a large gathering, do not think or assume someone is watching your child. Always watch your own child. If you have to leave for any reason, take them with you. Whether there's 2 people around the pool or 20, the risk is still there. We also suggest assigning a water watcher. They have badges that you can get or even make where there's one person that's designated to watch the water at all times, usually in 15, 20-minute segments. And you just pass the baton to the next adult that can focus on the water and making sure everybody's safe.
That's a good idea.
Thank you.
What types of flotation devices are the best for young children?
I would say none. And let me explain that. I should have had one with me to show you, but the most common flotation device you're going to see is we call a puddle jumper. And that's what goes around the arms and comes around the front here, and it buckles in the back. It always looks super cute because they put little animals on them, and they're super, super dangerous for your child. And that's mainly because it creates a false sense of security. And it also puts them in the drowning position, which is the vertical position in the water. You want your child to learn to swim and float this way, not this way. And I would say probably 70 to 80% of the families that I reach out to after a drowning accident, their child relied on a flotation device in the water. So you're better off getting them to swim, into swim lessons. If they're younger, just hold on to them. Or if you find like a float that doesn't have where their legs go through, then that's okay for younger children. But ditch the floaties, get them in swim lessons. And I can't stress that enough. They're a lot of people use them as babysitters as well. They think that they've got this on, or a life jacket. They can do, whatever they want in the water. And that is not the case. They can very easily take them off, or you take it off to go to the bathroom or eat. They get distracted, and their little brains don't understand that when they go back into the water without it, that they can't swim, because they're just used to jumping in and coming back up. And they just don't understand if without that they're not going to come back up.
Good to know.
Okay, so earlier you mentioned that people should learn CPR. So how young, what is the youngest age someone can learn CPR?
I think you can try to learn it at any age. However, I would say probably 10 to 12 years old would be a good age that it would sink in, and maybe you would still, use the skills if needed. But definitely, I think it would be more of a teenager type, thing when you get a little bit older.
Okay, that's helpful.
So if a child sees another child struggling in the water, what should they do?
Never jump in. I know that doesn't sound right. I know that our first instinct would be to jump in, but especially if you do not know how to swim, please do not jump in. The best thing you can do is yell for help. Go try to find an adult. If you find a phone, call 911, throw something in if it's an older child that they may be able to grab onto. But the problem is when somebody's drowning, their instinct is, if you jump in, is to take you down with them because they just want to be saved. So I know it would probably be the hardest thing you would ever do, but I would not jump in the water.
Okay.
So what is undertow and why is it so dangerous?
An undertow is when, when the waves are crashing into the shore, when that water is being pulled back by gravity under the surface is actually called an undertow. And it could pull you under and drag you out to the ocean. Rip currents are a little bit more dangerous than that because you can't see a rip current. And, really just in general, if you're in the ocean, especially if you're not a strong swimmer, only go where there's lifeguards and pay attention to the flags. If it's a yellow flag, if it's caution, or a red flag, don't go in the water. It's not worth it.
That sounds dangerous.
The ocean is beautiful, and it can be dangerous, and it can be dangerous to people that even know how to swim if you're not in there in the right conditions, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
What are some ways to help and support Live Like Jack?
Jake.
You can support Live Like Jake by going to our website, livelikejake.org. You can donate, you can volunteer. We actually have some events that can be done around the nation. We have a Watermelons for Water Safety event that goes on all summer long, which is really cute. Kids host their own watermelon stands and the funds come back to Live Like Jake. So it's also about raising awareness and funds. And then we have a Swim for Jake, which is where you can have a swim-a-thon in your local area, where same thing, you're raising funds for Live Like Jake. So if you're not local, there's still plenty of ways. And I would also say, you know, sharing on social media. We're very big on social media posts because, you know, you don't know what you don't know. For us, it's all about educating parents on the layers of protection, on the dangers of flotation devices. So one way that you can support us would be by sharing our information or talking to a friend or a family member that you feel like could benefit from these lessons or knowing the layers of protection. I want to point out too, one thing I haven't discussed is that drowning is the #1 cause of death in children ages 1 to 4. And it was the leading cause of accidental death. And as of last year, it has moved up to the #1 cause. So if you have a child between the ages of 1 to 4, they are more likely to die from a drowning than anything else. And, you know, the numbers keep going up instead of down. So we need to educate and we need to make sure children are learning how to swim so we can make a difference and see a day where not one more child drowns.
Wow, that reminds me that I have to, and also we have to see a teacher to tell my sister to like learn to swim because she's like almost gonna be 3 years old now. So
wow, yeah. So if you tell your parents, if anyone watching goes to infantswim.com and you put in your zip code, you will find the closest ISR instructor to you. And because they're global, they're all around.
Wow.
Very, very important.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so what are All-Star ISR instructions and how can one earn this designation?
Instructors.
Yes. So we actually started this year doing an All-Star Award for ISR instructors. We do one once a month. This is actually instructors that we work with on a regular basis that accept our scholarships and do a lot, you know, in the drowning prevention world. To become an ISR instructor, it's very intense. They have 6 to 8 weeks of training, and a lot of psychology goes into these lessons, and it's really unique to watch. I recommend you guys maybe looking some of them up and looking at some of the videos. You can see them on our website. Pretty cool to watch. But yeah, so that All-Star award is something that we've put together to recognize ISR instructors around the nation that are making a difference.
Yeah. So what is a lifesaver pool fence system?
Lifesaver pool fence is one of the largest in the world, I think, as manufacturing pool fences, and just one of our community partners. And one of the reasons why we really love this company is because they will give free pool fences to any family that's been affected by a drowning. And it's no questions asked. Even if you just rent the home and you don't even own the home, they will come in and give you a pool fence. Even if your accident was 3 years ago and you've moved into a home with a pool, they will give you a pool fence. So they are by far the most generous company that I've come across, and really, really want to make a difference. And, you know, they make great pool fences and they save lots of lives.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, so has your organization received any awards?
Great question. We have received some awards, yes. A lot of trying to think. That's a great question. We've been nominated for a lot of awards. We're up right now. We're trying to be nominated for best nonprofit in our area. Last year we made the top 5 for that.
Wow.
We there's a Christmas tree competition that we compete in. We win that every year. We competed in our first Christmas parade last year and took second place. So we do a lot of things that we are awarded with things. Yes.
Yeah, you won a lot of awards. You know, your organization actually reminds me of my 8-year-old tragedy. I actually drowned at once in my swimming pool class, and then a person who I very saved me out of nowhere. So yeah.
Wow.
Also, that reminds me like last week or something, or the week before, our swim teachers like teached us about like CPR and what that is, and like how to like if you're drowning, how to scream for help, like everything.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. You know, the style of lesson that we promote is one-on-one private instruction. This can happen, what happened to you in group instruction, when you have multiple children that, you know, don't know how to swim in one area with one instructor, they turn their back, a child falls in the water. We've actually provided quite a few scholarships for children that nearly drowned in their swim lessons. So we do always say, do your homework. If ISR is not in your area, still try to find a self-rescue type program or survival swim. And, you know, stay away from group lessons for small children, for toddlers, because you may think you're getting a deal because they're less money. But when you factor in, if it's a 30-minute lesson and they're sitting on the sidelines, they're really only getting 5 to 10 minutes of lessons anyways. And you're taking the risk of them maybe jumping in the water when the instructor's not looking. So we do recommend one-on-one private instruction.
Yeah. So I have another question.
Okay.
You recently hosted a Halloween event. So tell us about that.
We didn't host that event. We were just there. That was actually at an elementary school, and actually my old elementary school. And we were just, we had a booth there. I think you saw us, we were superheroes. You know, for us, it's really important to be out in the community to do these types of events, because we need to reach parents. You know, we need to ask the children, do you know how to swim? Does your brother and sisters know how to swim? And, you know, if they say no, it gives us the opportunity to talk to the parents. We give out bracelets, which actually I can send some, you know, to your instructor, or we can send some out if you guys are interested. We do have lots of Live Like Jake gear that if I can get your addresses, I'm more than happy to send out. I can also send you some awareness cards. If you want to get involved in your community and help us, we will definitely send you some, you know, some information.
Nice.
I would love that. Like,
oh, great.
And we're going to start round 3. And round 3 is students coming up with their own questions. And I was thinking maybe just kind of share if it's your turn, have you had swimming lessons, and are you a good swimmer, would you say? But I'm going to turn it over to Arjun to start round 3. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, do you have any more safety precautions around water do you think that we should follow?
Oh, I think someone's not on mute. There we go. So any more, I'm sorry, what was that, sweetie?
Okay, so do you have any more safety precautions around water that you think we should follow?
Well, if you're older, like your age, I would say like the horseplay, the rough play, I wouldn't do it. You know, you can hit your head. If you're trying to do flips into the water, diving is really important. Do never dive into shallow water. You know, if you're an adult watching this, you know, just don't think that it won't happen to you. You know, just always watch the water, put the phone down, play with your kids, get in the water, and, you know, just again, never, ever, ever think that it can't happen to you. And do you know how to swim?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I've taken swimming lessons since I was like really young.
Oh, I'd love to hear that.
Pragna?
Can young children be taught how to float?
Yes. So ISR starts as young as 6 months old. So if they are 6 months and they can sit up independently, they can start those lessons. I definitely, when you have a chance, if you go on to, if you're allowed on YouTube and you do search Live Like Jake Josie video, you'll see she was 6 months and 2 weeks. She was only 2 weeks into her lessons, and we were already had her in clothes. She could roll back and float for minutes at a time. So yes, they can start very young.
Nice to know.
Beatrice, you're
Where do you hope Live Like Jake will be in 5 years?
Great question. Well, everything that we've put out there has come true. We wanted a wrapped vehicle so we could spread the word, and we got it. We wanted an indoor facility, and in 2020 we opened up an above ground indoor pool, and we've already had 600 children learn to self-rescue. So really our next goal is to have an in-ground indoor pool so we can help older children like yourself that don't know how to swim. So we have deeper water. We can help adults. So that's really, where we want to be, still continuing to do the scholarships, maybe building more pools in areas that might need an indoor pool.
Nice.
Great question. Do you know how to swim?
I do know how to swim, but I'm not that good.
Okay, well, we need to work on that.
Yeah.
So if you're in a body of water alone, what steps can you take to save yourself? In more describe detail.
Well, one, I would say don't ever swim alone. That's pretty much the number one rule. And even for people that know how to swim, if you have a seizure in the water, you're not going to make it. If you have a heart attack or you hit your head, or if you're out in the ocean, it's just not wise to ever swim alone. So to answer, I don't really know how to answer that question, because if you're in distress, the only thing I could think of is just to try to roll back and float and yell for help. The floating is the most important thing, and why we support a self-rescue type lesson, because once you learn it at a young age, it's instilled in there. You never lose that float. My daughters are now 7 and 9, and they started at 6 months and 8 months, and they're such strong swimmers, but they could be anywhere, and I just say turn over and float, and they can just relax and float. So I know if they were ever in danger, that they would know what to do. So that's what I would suggest is, if you're a swimmer, great. If you don't know how to roll back and float well, I would suggest some lessons or some practice for sure.
All right.
Okay, who's after Ben?
So I was just wondering, so I've heard of this term called dry drowning, but I'm not sure what it is. So what is dry drowning, and how dangerous is it really?
So this is a tricky thing. So dry drowning is actually not a medical term. People will talk about it, but if you talk to a medical professional, they will tell you that it is not a medical term. What has happened is, if a child has a drowning experience and aspirates on water, that over time the water can build up, the fluid can build up in the lungs, and you can actually die from it. So they call it a dry drowning because you didn't actually drown in the water, but you drowned because you inhaled water at some point. It is extremely rare. I don't know the medical term for it, but we have something up here in our throats that closes off, so that can't happen. But if you have a seizure in the water, that relaxes that organ, and that's why you can drown very, very easily if you have a seizure in the water. But the dry drowning, it's not a medical term, and it's extremely rare. If you should have an accident where you do feel like you inhaled water, if the child or yourself is feeling lethargic, or you have a cough, a bad cough, like a fever, definitely go to the hospital. Let them do an x-ray of the lungs.
Okay.
Do you think some new ways can be introduced for rescuing if someone is drowning?
I mean, I think, you know, there's always room for innovation. I've seen now they have on the beaches that where the lifeguards have remote control vehicles that can get out there with the life-saving equipment to people. So, I mean, I think everything changes with time, you know, but really the best thing is to, you know, not swim alone. And if you've got a young child, teach them how to swim and how to float, swim in those lifeguarded areas at pools and beaches.
Wow, this is really dramatic.
Yeah, you know what I do is it's not fun. It's not easy to have to talk to people about these things. And, you know, for me to talk to you guys, you're so young and what I do is so serious, and, you know, I don't want to scare anybody. But it's reality, you know, and it takes so many lives every single day. And, you know, I see it all the time. So, you know, thank you for being interested in it. And I hope I'm not making you guys too sad.
I actually love swimming, and like each time somebody like mentions swimming, I'm like, what happened? I like learning about it, because it's like, you know, it's like so like, you know, interesting.
Swimming is fun. Swimming is such a fun sport, but you got to know what to do in the water.
I agree. It's so much fun.
I've heard about the bends. What exactly are the bends and how does it happen?
That I really can't answer that one, because that's more of like a scuba diving thing, and that's just something, even though I grew up in Florida, I never was a scuba diver. I do know that it has something to do with going down, you know, too quickly, or coming back up, I think, too quickly. But I can't answer that. I'm sorry. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
It's okay.
If you're on a boat and someone falls in the water, what should you do?
Well, you know, most people are going to say don't jump in after them, that you should always just try to throw something. I think it really depends on, is it a child that fell into the water? Does the person have a life vest on? Are they able to grab something if you were to throw it into the water? You know, did they hit their head? Are they unconscious? I think there's a lot of things that can play into that. But if you do not know how to swim, or you are not a strong swimmer, do not jump in after somebody. Again, always try to just throw something and hope that they can grab onto it and you can pull them in that way.
Like, if they fell and there's sand, can you go in?
You mean where you could reach?
Yeah, like, can you go in? Like if there's sand and you can walk in the sand.
Yeah,
like,
if you can reach, there's nothing wrong with trying to save somebody. But from, you know, all of the research and everything, it's just, if you can't reach and you're not a strong, even if you are a strong swimmer, lifeguards have to do a lot of training to learn how to save somebody the right way. And even then, usually they have a flotation device that they can put up underneath you. So, you know, a lot of times people end up drowning trying to save somebody. So you're better off not going into the water, yelling for help, throwing something, and, you know, definitely for a child, I would never recommend you trying to save somebody.
Also, I know how to swim, but I'm not great at it yet.
Yeah.
Like I'm learning.
So you definitely don't want to jump in to save anybody.
Yeah. I'm not going.
So, swimming is all fun and all, but like, what should you not do while swimming? Like, what's like the most dangerous thing while swimming?
Breath holding. You know, we all, you know, when I was younger, that was a game we used to play, who could hold their breath the longest. And there's something called shallow water blackout. So you actually lose consciousness underwater and you can drown. And there's a video out there of a synchronized swimmer, I believe, and it was earlier in this year, trained professional swimmer that lost consciousness underwater. And there's a video of her coach diving in and going down and saving her and bringing her back up. It was an incredible video to watch.
Wow, that's like big.
And
thing.
we have a local swimmer here that nearly drowned in her lessons because the coach was pushing them to hold their breath and swim as long as they could. And she went under and no one saw her. So she actually needed CPR and everything. It was very, very lucky to survive. So that would be my biggest thing is do not play that game. Do not try to hold your breath for as long as you can, because you can literally just pass out underwater and drown.
Like, I just have a question. Like, can you play the game like not underwater, but like out of the water? Can you play that game?
Sure. If you're not under the water, that's totally fine. And again, you know, water's fun. It's fun to play with your friends, but it's also dangerous. Yeah. So, you know, you just have to keep that in mind when you're playing. Don't ever hold anyone under. Sometimes you think it might be funny. My cousin actually held me under when I was younger, and I remember that so vividly. You know, being held underwater and coming back up and, you know, saying, hey, oh my gosh, you almost drowned me. Don't ever do that. You know, it's not fun. It's a very scary experience, and it will stay with somebody for a very long time. So I would say no breath holding or games where you're trying to hold people underwater.
Yeah, like also like if you're not under the water, like you can pass out. I mean,
sure, yeah, you definitely can. I mean, that, like I said, you know, that's where it comes to play with having an adult watching you. Even at your age, you should still have a water watcher around the water because of that, because of accidents. Absolutely.
You know, I've actually heard of a person back swimming all the way from the middle of the ocean to land.
Back swimming? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're on open water, you know, it's probably the best, you know, thing for you is to try to swim on your back. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that goes back to learning that float.
You mean to float and swim?
Yeah, like he just floated from the middle of the ocean to the land.
Wow.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah. So another question of mine. So like the Halloween event, are you like planning other events for Christmas?
We have a Christmas parade that we're going to be in again, and the theme is superheroes. So we're kind of working on that right now. And then one of our biggest events of the year is our 5K, and it's April 29th, and you can actually run it virtually. So if any of you guys ever want to run our event, you can sign up and run it. We'll send you a shirt and a medal, and it's kind of fun.
Sure.
And like, where is this like Live Like Jake? Like, is it like somewhere in a state, or?
We're in Florida. We're in South Florida. But we provide scholarships all over. But I live in South Florida.
Oh, you live. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
If people would like to learn more about your organization, what can they do?
They could go to our website, livelikejake.org. You can follow us on Facebook, Live Like Jake, and Instagram is Live Like Jake 3939.
So thank you for being our guest today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, and thank you for asking such great questions. I know you guys put some thought into this, and I'll be in touch with your teacher. And if you guys want some Live Like Jake gear, you know, he can give me, you know, your information, and I can send some stuff out to you.
Sure. Yeah. Like,
yeah.
How can we contact? Like,
You can contact me through the website. And Patrick, if you'd like to share my email with them, you can. It's livelikejake@gmail.com, and I'm always available. And you know, you can reach out through social media as well. But we've got cool bracelets, and you know, we've got some gear that we can send you guys for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This is Arjun Gajja reporting for Digital Media Club TV.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.